These are the cheapest controllers I could find on Amazon, at least on Prime anyway. Usually with this format, I just buy the cheapest thing and that's it, but the absolute cheapest controller that you can buy are these SNES clones, which come as a pack of 2 for only a tenner. £9.78 is specifically what I paid, so that's just £4.89 per controller. But for something with a joystick, I figured fine, let's get something with joysticks that you can play like regular games, games normally, and that turned out to be this PS3 clone, which cost me just £10.57. Although, seeing as how this is an Xbox style controller and will therefore generally only work thanks to Steam inputs, I figured, what the hell, let's find the cheapest Xbox style controller too, and that is this thing, which set me back a whopping £14.68. Scandalous, I know. But there we go. 4 controllers for £35, or about £10 less than one official Xbox controller. In theory, that's not bad, right? But in practice, well, let's find out just how bad they are, starting with the cheapest, these Trixie's pack of 2 wired USB controllers. These SNES controller clones that suspiciously have a place for a Nintendo-shaped logo, but are fully blank, are a straight rip. The graphics, the button colors, everything is suspiciously similar to the original controllers. Weirdly, on the Amazon listing, they actually put great effort into blurring or hiding the full color palette for the button layouts, which is even more hilarious when you scroll down a bit and find full unblurred images in the description. I don't really know what's going on there. Anyway, these things feel, well, hollow. The plastics are okay, I guess. I mean, the controller for a £5, so who's to argue, but still. The buttons have worryingly long travels. They're clearly membrane switches for sure, and they're pretty mushy. Same with the shoulder buttons too. Those are soft and squishy. The shell isn't that bad. It's surprisingly rigid with little to no flex. The cable is about 1.5 meters long, so not exactly massive, but it's just about enough. The sort of bare minimum, which kind of nicely describes this whole thing. And for actually using it, yeah, it's pretty bad. Buttons frequently don't register, and while I'm hardly a Mortal Kombat pro, I'm actually a complete novice, I suspect even an actual pro would really struggle with these things. For really young kids where you expect them to break this thing within a week, sure, this is for you. Anyone else? Nah. I also managed to use my very own open source latency testing tool, available at osrtt.com by the way, linked in the description, and the results will shock you. The average latency is a whopping 36.8 milliseconds, with the absolute minimum being 12 milliseconds. That's the average for a good controller, mind you, and the max being 65 milliseconds. Yikes. That means that any amount of latency sensitive gaming is just impossible with these things. While I don't have any good quality SNES controllers to compare to, I can say that even a £30 wireless controller will cut almost 15 milliseconds off of that latency, and running wired can cut another 5 or 10 milliseconds off. As I said, a really good controller averages between 10 and 15 milliseconds with my tool, so this is trash. Moving on to the cheapest controller with joysticks, the PS3 clone, well, this immediately feels a lot better and remarkably almost identical to an actual DualShock 3 controller. There are a few key differences, like the joysticks feeling like they're entirely filled with grit and sand, the joystick buttons feeling like they want to snap the controller in half when you use them, and these actually kind of nice dimples that are on the back for your fingers to rest on. The triggers feel remarkably similar, with the same weird feel to them. I never really liked DualShock 3 controllers. Was it DualShock 2? Anyway, this one has less structural rigidity, with the two halves of the case feeling like they're sort of splitting apart with any force. Amazingly, this one does have at least a little bit of uniqueness to it, with interesting looking square, circle, triangle and cross buttons. Those actually feel alright. Hardly the mecha tactile switches you'll find on a new Razer controller, but good enough. Of course, being a PS3 controller, it is technically wireless, over Bluetooth, although it expressly states that that only works for PS3s. If you want to use it on PC, you will need to use the included, and frankly tiny, 1 meter mini USB cable. Yeah, they copied the mini USB port from the DualShocks as well. Brilliant. And because it's a PS3 controller, it generally needs Steam input to actually work in games. As for actually using it, well it's better than the SNES controller for sure. It's obviously more usable for most games, but it also just feels more usable. For games where I would actually use a controller, which is mostly driving, be that in GTA or in direct racing games, this feels alright. I can't say it's anything better than adequate, it's, yeah, fine. It clearly isn't great, and there's actually a couple of good reasons for that. First, latency. This is still one of the slowest controllers I've tested. Sure, it is over 10 milliseconds faster than the SNES clones, but it's still over 5 milliseconds slower than the next slowest wired controller. The latency itself actually isn't the worst part though. That would be the polling rate. See, most game controllers are limited to 250 Hz. That's the maximum that the consoles can handle new inputs, although more and more controllers these days are coming with PC modes that run at 1000 Hz or higher. In fact, the ZD gaming controller that I checked out recently actually hits a little over 3000 Hz. These controllers though? Yeah, the PS3 clone is pretty bad with an average of just 61 Hz. That means that your display is updating at least twice as fast as your controller is submitting new inputs, assuming you have a high refresh rate display anyway. That also means that fast inputs can just get lost, or as we've seen from the latency, it can just take ages. There's also a lot of jitter, which again means inconsistent inputs with big jumps. The average for the outliers here was 47 milliseconds. That's 7 frames at 144 Hz. Yikes. Still, this isn't the absolute worst for like genuinely casual gaming. Anything stressful, I'm thinking Overcooked here, do not use this, this will end up through your TV. And finally, our most expensive controller here today, that's still the cheapest, the Xbox 360 clone. This thing, they have absolutely nailed the at least immediate hand feel of this from the wired original 360 controllers. It is uncanny. It looks identical, save for the missing X in the middle. It's just a shiny ball instead here. It still has the LED like player number around the ball though, it's just missing the trademark X logo in the middle. While the immediate hand feel does feel remarkably identical to the OGs, the stick feel, again, gritty. The buttons aren't as nice. The L3 and R3 buttons ring like hollow inside. The quality is clearly missing here. The triggers do feel pretty similar though, which is a nice surprise. The D-pad though, damn, that is a mushy mess. It's hard to tell if you've even pressed one of the buttons, regardless of which way, it's that bad. Oh, and something I forgot to mention with the PS3 controller is vibration. Obviously the SNES controllers don't have any, but whereas the PS3 and Xbox 360 ones do, the PS3 one is pretty weak, but at least it's there. This one, the 360, is, well, clearly has 2 motors, one per side, which is nice, although the right-hand side one is broken. It permanently like clicks or hums whenever there's meant to be even the slightest vibration. It's pretty distracting. At least the left side motor does feel pretty decent. Oh, and happily the cable length here is very usable at least 2 meters, although it is missing like the little original sort of hot swap connector thing in the cable, although personally I don't really miss that. That was mostly just a very easy way to have your controller disconnect, often hidden behind like the console or a PC or a desk. Yeah, One final funny thing here is with the joystick tips. See, they have the little dots on them that let you know, sort of which direction to go, but they're on diagonals, not up, down, left, right. It's kind of off-putting because the whole point of the dots is to give you texture to know which way is which, but these don't do that. That's kind of funny. As for actually using it, it's alright, I guess. I mean, I expected this to be at least a little better than the PS3 clone, but amazingly, it wasn't. It's slightly worse. It's actually verging on unusable. For like really basic stuff, the sort of games that your under 5 kids might play, sure, it's perfect. But for anyone with a modicum of consciousness, it's going to be a really difficult thing to get to grips with. See, while the latency is almost identical to the PS3 clone at 23.8 milliseconds on average, only 0.4 milliseconds slower than the PS3 clone, the polling rate is just laughably bad. It averaged just 37 hertz. 37! On even a 60 hertz display, your display will update almost twice for every average controller input. That is insane! The jitter was also even worse, with an average jitter of nearly 60 milliseconds. That's 16 hertz. That means the inputs just don't register. Forget using this for shooter games, that just is not possible. But even for racing games, it's genuinely hard to use because inputs just go missing or take so long that you just end up crashing. It's not enjoyable. I also had a brilliant suggestion given to me that was that I should play Skate, which is just rough. You technically can play, you can skate, you can even do some tricks, but trying to land specific tricks and get things accurate, that's a little difficult. Also doing a lot of fast movements mid-air, yeah, no chance. To say that I was disappointed by all 3 or I guess all 4 of these things is a bit of an understatement. I know that these things are ridiculously cheap, but I figured that even with literally decades-old technology, that could be replicated with, relatively little money. But I guess not. I wouldn't buy any of these controllers again. The PS3 controller is the closest thing to a hypothetically usable option, but it's still subpar. These are like young children's toys where you expect them to be broken regularly, hence the low price, needing to replace them with some regularity. Or these are for the second or third player that you don't really like. That's about it. I would much rather buy a mid-tier £20 controller, like this Easy SMX controller. That bugger even has Hall effect joysticks. These things feel like e-waste straight out the box. Don't waste your money on them. I'll link to a few better options in the description below. Of course, those are my thoughts, but I'd love to hear yours in the comments down below. What do you think of these controllers and their, lack of control? Let me know in the comments down below. If you have any of these or bought something similar, I'd love to hear your experience with them because obviously I have a sample size of either 1 or 2, which is pretty limited, so maybe some other similar options are slightly better. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like I said, I'll leave links to them in the description. If you want to be able to test your own controllers like this, my open source latency testing tool that I make right here at home in the UK and ship worldwide is available at osrtd.com, link in the description. And otherwise, yeah, hit the subscribe button, check out the rest of the cheapest things on Amazon playlist. I've mostly got SSDs on there right now. And I think a mouse, yes, a mouse is on there too. Otherwise, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, we'll see you on the next video.